Hello, and welcome to another episode of Colourisma Cast. I'm your host, Shar, and in this show, in Colourisma, we are a community. I just wrote this down, so yeah. We are a community about finding and chasing your passion. I'm still workshopping that, but today is going to be an interesting episode based on some stuff that I saw on Twitter over the past week or so. And as you can tell in the title, it is all about that hashtag that went around recently called hashtag NobodyArtistClub. So we're talking about that today, and we are going to just kind of discuss all the angles that I personally have seen and I personally have felt. I can only from my experience. If you are in the chat and you have either a different opinion than me or a different insight, I'd love to hear it. Hopefully live. Hopefully I can get somebody here and, talk and stuff, and that'll be fun. But if not, you know what, you're catching this later, go ahead and comment, and maybe in a future episode I can get back to you, and that'd be awesome. So yeah, what is this hashtag? I just realized I meant to look up who started the hashtag because I did see a tweet about that, and I forgot. So sorry about that. I don't have all the information, and I'm live. We've been for the past 10 minutes waiting to be live where I could have looked it up. You know how it goes. So this tag, you've seen it if you're on art Twitter. It has been going around. It's kind of seeped its way into Instagram and kind of other things that have hashtags, but it really blew up over Twitter especially. And effectively what it was is a kind of a call to action to artists with not a huge following, may have a lot of talent. Actually, I scratch that. Have a lot of skill. I don't like the word talent. That's a whole other thing. But they have a lot of skill, and they just don't have the audience. Now, it's debatable whether Twitter is really the best platform for artists. While you can put videos and pictures, it is kind of really word-based. It's kind of the whole thing with Twitter. And I've seen very, very, very big artists with millions of followers on other platforms only get, a handful of likes and responses on Twitter. So every platform is kind of serving a different functionality. However, it can't be ignored that the bigger your platform on any particular space you choose to participate in, the more you are going to get a following, the more influence you have, the more people will be able to recognize your name, and your name may come up in certain conversations. So I have a lot to say. I have little post-it notes. I was just scribbling away right before the show started, trying to remember everything. So before I jump straight into the Nobody Artist Club discussion, I did want to do a little housekeeping for Colourisma. This week, I went ahead and redid, I said this week, last night at 5 a.m., I redid the logo for Colourisma. I really liked the font I chose, but it was just a little bit elegant for what I and this channel I feel represents. It's a little bit more rough around the edges and kind of just real. And the script was beautiful, and I really liked that particular font that I went ahead and paid for. You know what, sometimes you just gotta change it up. So I changed it to a little bit more, it's still a script font, I know, geeky, whatever. But yeah, I changed the font. I thought it kind of represented the platform a little bit more, and just went ahead and did that change. I went ahead and did the like little logos everywhere. It's a thing, you know, it's evolving. I also went ahead and earlier in the week I started a Facebook group. So if you are interested in Colourisma, if you are interested in joining this community, I encourage you to the group. You just should be able to just search Colourisma on Facebook. I will put the link in the description wherever you may be seeing this, and and hopefully that is easy to find. So I'm excited about that. I also started a Discord, which is related to the Patreon side of things, which, by the way, patreon.com/Colourisma. Okay, now that's done. So, oh, and last thing, I should put my notes like higher so I don't have to like get all in. Anyway, the last thing I was super excited about, but I didn't get a chance to do this week, was I thought it would be hilarious, and maybe I'm really wrong with this, but I thought it would be really hilarious to get a tiny microphone, like one of those tiny, like the whole, like this, like so tiny, and just like hold it the whole show and like talk. I don't know. I thought it was hilarious, but then I started, of course, researching it and researching tiny microphone, and I couldn't. Ridiculous. And I couldn't find one with like across the board good reviews. So if you have tiny microphone recommendations, I really am interested. I love to get a little microphone. Probably what I'll do is like use it for 5 minutes during an episode and like be very intentional about it, and then I'll just lapel it to my shirt or something, and that's what I'll do. But I'd like to help with the sound quality. I am only on my phone at the moment. I could get into all the different kind of limitations I have with doing this cast. That is a good reason why I started the Patreon, because it would help me get that phone. Oh, I'd love that tiny, but also it would help me get more lighting instead of this incandescent lighting that I feel like will burn a hole into the ozone layer. It could also potentially let me get better airing, and okay, words are hard. Better cooling and heating in my locale. It is 84 degrees here. I do live in an RV, and that is where I'm broadcasting from. And that will probably be the case forever. But I do have some things that would really help the guest and really help be so incredibly uncomfortable while I'm doing the cast. So yeah, if you're interested in helping with that and getting, at least that tiny microphone, so excited. Anyway, microphone aside, moving on to the topic of the day. That get to just cross that off the list there. That little post-it note's gone. So, NobodyArtistClub. I am so immediate reactions, right? So it came up, and I kind of recognize I've been on Twitter since 2009, 8, somewhere around there. So I'm familiar with the platform, you could say. I did go on like a long hiatus of barely posting on there from time to time. I was super obsessed with Facebook for too long, not anymore, but too long. And I would only go onto Twitter, just brain. But I'd only go onto Twitter, when Facebook was down or something. So that was it. Anyway, sorry, my brain is all over the place. I'm going to blame it on the heat. Anyhow, so I'm used to Twitter, and like I am used to seeing tags and eyes when one is trying to help the community or get people more exposure than would. otherwise, and I do plan on having an episode kind of on those kind of different tags. And I saw Nobody Art Club and I was like, oh, I get this immediately. Sure, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. And kind of the irony of ironies, right? So I recognize the tag, I understand its purpose immediately, and I jump on a few of my pieces and I posted up on Twitter on the platform for. It's a trending tag, so it should, you know, get some traction, right? Somebody should look at it. I posted 5 minutes. I have a decent following on there, but it's also an older following. And if you have been on a platform for a really long time and you say have like 1,000 followers, those are not 1,000 engaged followers. Those are not 1,000 followers that are clinging on to your every word. I probably have a dozen people that actually like it with me on there. Occasionally, I don't know, but not often. And so I wasn't surprised. My art posts, even though I did a little poll once and tried to figure out what people like to see on Twitter, and people said art, but my art posts do the worst there. The absolute worst. Whenever I share a new piece or, you know, anything with my artwork on it, it does not do well on that platform. So it's interesting. I don't know if it's an algorithm thing. I don't know. It could be anything. I did a little behave internet. Anyway, so so when I posted and I got, you know, 5-10 minutes goes by and 20 minutes and 30 minutes and then a couple of hours, and I'm not sitting there like with big breath on it or anything, but I'm just kind of how this would do. And by like the next day and I got 0 likes at all, I was kind of like, well, damn. It really kind of punched home for me. And then multiple days went by. Then by then it's old news, right? You're not generally getting a lot of feedback and stuff from old. Yeah, I was just like, oh, okay. So another one bites the dust. And it kind of reinforced for me like what this tag is really all about. It's about the people who I feel like I'm skilled. I mean, you know, it is what it is. I have skills. We'll have a horse drawing contest. I mean, I'll go. You're on. Like anytime, any place, you name it. Yeah. So I feel like I'm skilled. I feel like I have stuff to offer in the art world, and I've just and if you've listened to my last episode, you can hear the struggle I've been through in trying to get my stuff there. And it really kind of like, you know, showed like, okay, this is why this tag exists, because people can still use this tag that indicates not necessarily that I am a nobody. Like, I mean, if we're just being for real here, not a lot of people know who I am. Not a lot. I'm sure doesn't come in very specific circles. Animorphs, hey. I may have. I don't know. I'd like to say I have some sway there, but probably not. But you know, very very small circles know who I am and what I do, and so I guess in that way, you know, without trying to put myself down exactly, I feel like a nobody. You know, like I don't have 10,000 followers on any of my platforms. I have been online since 2003, and if we're really, really for real, 1997. So I've been involved in the community. I've tried to put my art out there, and even before the algorithms, I couldn't get ahead of all of it enough to really make the difference that I wanted. So for me, when I look at this tag, it's not a put down. It's a call out. It's saying, hey, I'm somebody. I want to be somebody. To have the career I want in this art field, I want to have an art career, and I can't, due to the fact I'm a nobody. Like it's not even trying to be a put down for me. It's literally just like, look at the numbers, look at the facts. So that's how it kind of all starts to go. And these tags come and go all the time. So it was a little when I saw like industry pros start weighing in. And this is probably, I'll get myself into trouble if there's any point in this discussion. So I'll try to keep it as factual as I can, but I am my opinion. So I started seeing industry pros weigh this, and they didn't say anything too alarming or something that I really disagreed with, but it started dogpiling, I noticed. And the focus started away from sharing the people tags who are using this tag, focusing more on the tag, which I'm just gonna say it is not the. There was the tag was supposed to be an attention grab. That was it, as far as I'm concerned. And in fact, the author, which I will research and I will either put in the description. The original author, I think, started getting probably some flack from it and created a tag, and they did 10K. What was it? Under 10K gang, and I saw under 10K trending, and I saw under 10K gang, and so I was like, I'm like, the Nobody Artist Club has like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of cute in a way, like. I don't know. You can have your opinion on it, but I thought it had more attention grabbing, right? So to me, it wasn't really, let's focus on the tag itself. Let's focus on the people. And I did see a lot of artists share those people retweets and commenting on their posts, and I thought that was great. And that's like, indeed, the purpose of the tag, like why it became a thing. So I just kept seeing this discourse, though, that was talking about the tag and being a nobody and how terrible that was, and views don't really matter. And I was like, whoa, let's stop right there. In certain careers, yes, you're correct. There are plenty of who live in LA or in New York City or in Vancouver or in any one of these big cities where they have an industry. And there's other people that are well known enough that they don't need to be big cities because they can glance from anywhere, because again, they have a name. They are somebody. They have a following. They have more than 10K followers, been around for a while. Like, it's like all have to happen in order for you to have that privilege, though. And it is a privilege, to be honest. Like, let's be real here. I'm not mincing words. Having a following, it's a, but it's also a privilege. Like, you have a sphere of influence that other people don't have. And there's a lot to that. Like, there is, like I said, a responsibility with that. You can't just say whatever you want. I mean, you can, but I would argue that's wrong. um, you know, the more people you tend to collect around you, I mean, for me, I'm a very protective person, so I would want to work in the best interest of everybody around me. Um, and try to protect them and try to help them grow. I started this whole channel and everything. So it just seems disingenuous to me to try to wave off followers and views, because there are some artists in the industry who are generally, and the artists I know that they're talking about, they live in these cities. They live in LA, live in the city where they get work. I can't tell you how much of the human population doesn't do that. Like, it's a lot. It's like most of humanity. It's like, you know, 99.9% of artists don't have that, can't live there, can't afford to live there, especially if they're a nobody. So I and yes, if you live in those cities and you're connecting with the right people and you're networking with them and you're going to networking events and you know somebody who knows somebody and all of that that's behind the scenes and not online, you're right. You don't need a following. You don't need 10K followers. You don't even need 5, because and the 5 people who would follow you are probably like your art director and your I was gonna producer, but whatever, you know, whatever field you're in, your agent or something, you know, some people who are already close to you that already have a relationship with. So yeah, that doesn't matter as much, because you aren't trying to. It depends where you're trying to get. I mean, honestly, the money from. Like, are you trying to get it from studio? Trying to get it from like clientele? Are you trying to get it from the every kind of day consumer? Like, there's different kind of brackets of people that where you can make your living, and there's I know so much about this, years of marketing training, but all of that makes all of that makes a huge difference in how successful you are. And yes, some if you here's the so if you're trying to work for a studio, or you are in a studio, you're in an environment where you are literally, like before the pandemic anyway, in a studio, it's actually probably best if you don't have a following. I've seen people get in trouble because they say stuff and they have followers and they, you know, whatever, and then they get in trouble because they just say stuff and they don't think about what they're saying and they're just spewing whatever they think, and like brain to screen, like no thought process in between, and it's them in trouble with their studio. I've seen that before. So maybe having no social media is best for those type of people, unless you're really clear about. Also, I've seen the other thing where people in studios have to put a disclaimer on their social media saying, like, these views are my own and they don't represent the studio I work for, and all this stuff. That's unnecessary if you are working in a studio. So those are all things that happen. But here's another key point about those people. I wouldn't call them nobodies then. They wouldn't be considered nobodies. Have that kind of already job, who are all working in that field. Sorry, you made it. Regardless as to how you feel, if you personally feel like you made it, or if you'd like to accomplish, it's really your true passion, or we can get into that, right? There's so much I would love to discuss with someone, by the way. If you have, I mean, that's tricky too. Can't necessarily go on a show and say, I hate my studio job, I wish I could follow my passion. Like, that's also tricky, right? So I'm wondering if some of these viewpoints come from a frustration in feeling confined, right? Like, they feel, I'm only guessing, right? Because I don't have a studio. I had a studio, even though I've worked in the video game, I've worked in several other publishing fields. I've never had a studio art job. So base it on how I think I might feel in that position. And I might feel a little stifled. I might feel like this is a job and I enjoy it and it is drawing and it is fun, but it's not my true passion. Um, and I wonder if some of the that I saw tag have like some kind of correlation with that. Again, I don't know. These are the kind of things I don't know. This is why I would love to have somebody on the show that can kind of come at this different kind of viewpoint. And I'm not going to veer away from the tough topics on this show. I think there's plenty of shows just that, and they will, get airy and really dig deep. And I'm kind of not all about that. We'll have those tough talks, as anyone who knows me knows, and they hate it about me. But I think it's really important to really discover what it is that you are most passionate about and following that. All that said, right? So that's one perspective. That's one angle I saw happening over on the on the hashtag was industry professionals, either freelance or studio, kind of weighing in, and I kind of felt like it wasn't super fair for them to is my word. They could have been using their platform, sizable influence, to be uplifting artists who feel like nobody for a myriad of reasons, probably through years and decades of not getting the success they want, despite putting in all the effort and the work. And one of the things I had to say on it was, we've all been kind of fed a line, right? We all kind of were told growing up, if you're a 90s kid, and even, even now, we are told hard work gets the results. End of story. That's the thing. And if you aren't getting the results, then it means you're not working hard enough. And it totally discounts all manner of things. Oh, I'm holding back so much. All manner of things that are totally outside our control. Where we live, who we are, who we love, what we look like, our abilities, all of that gets discounted when you just relate results due to hard work, right? And I will tell you, every single person whose success story I've heard, every single one has used the word luck. Every single one. I haven't seen one where they're like, I just worked hard and grit and blah blah. Said I was either at the right place at the right time, I had a lucky break. This one thing took off. I just kept, building my audience, but at some point it just, hit a tipping point, which was lucky. Like, there's always something, some extra element in it that has nothing to do with how hard they're working. I've actually been criticized that I work way too hard, that I want what I want too much, and I don't even know what to make that. I could do a whole episode on that. But yeah, so I just can't feel like if somebody already has a success through, I can only a magic of hard work and some kind of lucky break, being at the right place at the right time. I just have to say that it isn't all it and just so many people don't get that lucky break. They put in all hard work and the time and the years and the effort, and they build their skills, and no matter what they do, even when they use the hashtag that is supposed to like help people in their station, they still can't get the results they want. And I can personally attest how frustrating that is, right? So yeah, I'm cleaning my notes now. Yeah, I get the intention, and I'll just say this too. I get the intention, and given the amount of imposter, given the amount of low self-esteem, down on yourself, and like I said in my life, like your work, like it. You are allowed. I give you permission. You are allowed to like what you do. And so many people, I don't know if it's like just because everyone does it, but so many people say they hate what they do as soon as they create it. And I find that so frustrating. So I don't know if part of, and I'm sure a big part of it is to negate that, right? Like to say you're nobody and you know that it's kind of based off of like confidence issue for some people. I can say it because I've worked really hard over my whole entire adult life to overcome my whole entire childhood of no self-esteem to getting some now self-esteem. So I feel like when I say it, it's literally just describing a particular way that I exist in, a of self, a person, not even personal at all. It's just like, look at the numbers, look at the sphere of influence I have, look at how many, when I post, what happens, like, just look at that and then get back to me, right? Like, that's how I see it. But I'm sure I'm kind of unique, and I'm sure a lot of that tag kind of like it was a put down. And I can see that. I'm not going to pretend. And maybe for some people, they weren't meaning it. Like, like just a word that was describing their situation, and we're using it as a word that described themselves. And I'd like to invite you to not do that, because everybody here is a somebody. And words matter, and the words we use do matter. And it's really important to keep in mind, right, when you're using words and everything. And I can get into a whole thing about intention and interpretation and everything. So it just, I feel like there's crossroads, right? Like there's, just look at it. There's being in it. There's really like using the tag because it suits station. And then there's coming from a point and a place of privilege, talking about the tag because in your mind it doesn't even apply to you, right? And there, I feel like I should just, and I felt like in a way of derail station in a way, because I still see people using the tag, but I kind of mostly just feel like it kind of faded out of popularity in a way because of like the stuff behind it, like all the everything behind it. And I feel like that's a little bit of a shame, because maybe we need to get a different tag, right? Maybe some things we do have the under 10K tag, the under 10K gay tag. And I guess I feel some kind of way about that too, because it kind of got into using that tag. I saw there's a different kind of thing where people are focusing on that number then, right? Like, it's still there. It was like whatever anybody could do to distract from the real thing that was happening. Having potential internet issues. I can't tell. I'm waiting a moment to see if it resolves itself. Okay, I think it's better now. But yeah, so I saw. So maybe the solution is, oh, let's just pick a new tag. Okay, so a new tag was picked under 10K, and then I saw a bunch of discourse on that. And I was just like, again, not the point. And I already went into why numbers matter, and I went into why numbers can not matter, but let me get more into why they do matter, right? So I discussed what it is to have a studio job and how that affects work and being on social media. And those two things can be very separate, right? Like, you already have the income, so you don't need a following, really, right? Like, but if your whole point, your whole path to get income is a following, and I've seen this, I tried to enter a discussion into this topic, and I felt kind of got waved off, but like, it's huge. Like, if you're an artist and maybe one of your biggest platforms is, say, Patreon, right? And you're getting effectively small subscriptions, small Patreon or amounts from individual patrons. Numbers matter. You can't pay rent with $2, but if you had 2 times 1,000, that's more doable. That's something, right? So, and that's why the whole like 1,000 True Fans thing is around, like why that exists, and why it can be true. So I can't overstate how important it is to have the following. Like, numbers matter in a lot of different art fields. Maybe a little less so if you're a freelance artist and you're well connected within the industry that you're working in, and you know all the art directors, you have all their emails, and you get regular work from them. Sure, but if that's not the case, which I know it's not the case for a lot of people, again, the numbers matter. The platform might matter more. Maybe Instagram is a platform. I know mix things, right? Like, I've heard some art directors, they troll through, not troll, like being a treat. They go through Instagram and different social medias looking for new talent and people all the time, and other people say that they hardly ever go on there, or they're just on there for fun, and they're not there looking for potential people to employ. So, right, it gets a little murky as to whether really all that helpful or not. But at any point, if you are a well-known name enough and you want to start a Patreon and you already have 100,000, guess what? Like, even if 10% of those followers, even if 2% of those followers decide to become a patron in some way, that's a huge difference in your life. That is effectively a passive income that, yes, you've built up, right? Like, you've worked to have that audience, but like, something you can utilize. And I'm seeing more artists do so, who are bigger, who maybe like, to be honest, just kind of poo-pooed Patreon in the past, or kind of was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. So yeah, it just, I can't get over how having that following is, because when you have no following, getting patrons is like an uphill battle. I've personally been stuck at like 20 for the past 2 years. Like I got a few, and then like it capped, just like stuck there now. And Patreon, nothing on the platform be discoverable on the platform. They're very adamant about that is your job as the artist and choice. I see Kickstarter doing it where they help their people get discovered who start Kickstarters, but that's all like a time-based thing. That's a whole other discussion, right? The point is, it's all on you, right? Anything you just learn about Patreon, anything you try to discuss about best Patreon tips, they basically all start with rule number 1: already have an audience, right? Like that's like Patreon 101 is just you need to already have the audience. And somebody struggling to get that audience enough to be able to do their dream and passion career, being told just do it, just do it. You hear the frustration? I mean, I'm trying not to just be a whole whiny so like that's the problem, right? Like that's the whole thing. That's why the tag even came about. It was to uplift these people who have skills, who have put the time in, and try to get them the recognition and honestly the money they deserve. Like I'm not mincing words. Like being an artist is a real career. Like it's not the thing that we were told as kids where, like, oh, well, have a backup plan, blah, blah. Like there are enough people who are a like real artist and make a real living off of it that it is a viable career path. And I feel like we kind of need to stop pretending. I like there's so many kind of like I just see this intersectionality of all of these different things that I can kind of get into, and I'm trying to stay more or less on topic with the hashtag itself and try to keep bringing it back to that. But I just there's just to name a few things, like there's the perception of artists in society, there's the perception of visual artists. Like when you say artist, everybody hears the pen and the paper and the paint, but a lot of people use the term artist who don't do visual arts, and it is what it is. But I don't know, I find it interesting that certain artists get more respect out of society than others, and I would argue that visual artists by and large do not get that respect. Don't think this kind of another kind of tangent, but like I don't think people are asking famous celebrity singers to come back barbecues and sing for $10. But how many visual art of any level, how the somebody artists and anyone super pros get asked to work for peanuts all the time, right? Like it's just our profession just doesn't have the respect to be respect, right? Like in the greater of society, that's really what it kind of boils down to. What I've seen over the years is that the voice, I'm using air quotes again a lot today, but like the voice art, they would do the little circuit, right, for all the Disney and the DreamWorks and all the big movies. The voice actors would be the ones to go to the different shows and promote it. What about the lead animator? What about the person who brought these characters that you're looking at for an hour and a half to life? The characters, the background designers, isn't that interesting? Like when you draw in front of somebody who is not an artist, aren't they amazed? Aren't they absolutely astounded by what you do? And many people say, I could never in a million years, all I can do is stick figures, right? Like, you've heard all of those things before. So something that somebody readily admits within 5 seconds of watching you craft, that they could not do it in a million years, which is just categorically false. But they admit to themselves and to you that they could not do something for in a million years worth of time that you are just doing right in front of them. They still don't respect it. It's a lot, you guys. Like, it's frustrating. And I'm wondering if all of this kind of, like, again, comes into play. Like, we can kind of like be victims and perpetrators ourselves of mentality, like devaluing ourselves, right? Like, it's unfortunate, but it happens all the time, in a lot of different ways. So, not to get all heavy and like, end of the worldy or anything, but we're already in it, so we might as well share our feelings. All right, let me check my notes and make sure that I'm getting everything that I want to get in. Okay. Yes. I'm wrapping up here. So I guess to bring it back both to the hashtag itself, what would I have liked to see, right? Like, I would have liked to see that hashtag used a little less, like, less worried about what it says, right? Like, less worried about the word nobody, and more as like, here, you feel like a nobody, here, be somebody. And have all these artists who have platform, who have the voice, who have the sphere of influence, raise these artists up and promote them. And not just their art, not just the tweets, not just, the pretty pictures, but like, this is how you pay this person. You like this, support. And I think that's something I would have liked to see come from this tag a little more, personally. So maybe that's something when the next tag kind of comes in, maybe that's something we can all kind of keep in mind. All right, I got a comment. Yay. All right, let's see. Yes, exactly. So Christy said, we as artists sometimes perpetrate a lack of respect because a lot of us don't have the confidence to do it otherwise. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And I wonder if that has a big part of it. Like, that is kind of like the whole tag, right? Where sometimes some of us can divorce feeling like a nobody from feeling like, I'm going to get real weeds with the language here, but like, feeling like a nobody and being a nobody, right? Like, I feel like there's a distinction there. Feeling like a nobody isn't a judgment call, right? Like, again, I realize that it's gonna sound real, but just kind of work with me here. So feeling like a nobody is like looking at your situation, seeing how hard working, being even harder to get where you want to be, and still not getting the results you want. Feels like a nobody, right? Like, it's just a feeling, passes. It's a reflect self. Other people, though, might feel, and I use the word feel, so I apologize, might think that they are a nobody, right? Like, I'm trying to like phrase it in my own mind to make it make sense. But like, right, like it's kind of what I said earlier of just like, they are internalizing it. They're internalizing this lack of success, despite the work that they've been putting into it, the bills that they've been putting into it, and they're internalizing this and it's weighing on their self-confidence. And it's not to say that it always weighs on your self-confidence a little bit, but there's I feel like there's just a difference between a feeling, a fleeting feeling, and feeling you are something, right? Like, it's like the difference, and this isn't a great example, but it's like the difference between doing a bad thing and being a bad person, right? There's a difference. I feel like it's the same thing in the sense of like, do I feel like a nobody, or am I a nobody? That doesn't matter, right? Like in all the other language that kind of surround that negative self-talk. And because art is so hard and it is a skill and there are so many elements to it in every single capacity, composition, color, light, texture, I mean, you name it. And this is all with representational art. You get into abstract and that's a whole other thing, right? Like, a whole other thing. And yeah, so it is a difficult field just to be able to get skilled in it. And there are probably people in your whole life that you can point back to that try to give you grief about it. Again, due to the whole society thinking negative, or at least respecting the visual arts as a whole. So it's a lot. It's a lot. Yes, and then Christy said, we talk social media numbers to ourselves, and that is another point that I feel, if that's the kind of point that some of the pros that were weighing in on this were talking about, then I do understand that, right? Because I know people, the pros themselves, that have imposter syndrome, that have low self-confidence, that aren't really sure what they're doing is what they want to do forever, or it's their calling in life or passion, but they have hundreds of followers. They're like terrified of changing because they might lose numbers, and if they lose those numbers, it makes them feel less as a person, right? It's definitely a form, like another form of negative self-talk and negative thinking, right? Like, those numbers, you hold yourself up onto this like pedestal, and like, it's not even about the art, it's not even about the passion behind the art, it's about the of indicating how much you matter, right? This many people think I matter, and I'm sure that's really difficult to just like let go of, right? Like, to just say, oh, that doesn't matter, like, who cares? A million people, who cares, right? Like, it's a little hard to just off, right? That amount of people being invested to some degree in what you do. And it's hard to not internalize it. I could only imagine if I were in that position, have to just kind of ignore it to some degree, to just, and I do see the people who are at that level, that effectively what they say they do, they just kind of ignore it. Once it gets to a certain unfathomable, when you can't imagine that many people in a room all together anymore, despite COVID, pre-COVID, when you can't even imagine 50,000, 20,000 people, even 10,000 people is a lot of people. Like, that is so many. Even 1,000 people, even 100 people is still a lot of people. Then I just feel like you have to kind of abstract that, right? Because, like I way earlier on, I do have like something like 1,000 Twitter followers, but only like a dozen interact with me, and a dozen is a reasonable number. And I think even people with millions of followers, unless they're just posting controversial all the time, I that they generally interact with maybe a couple dozen people altogether as well. So it really is interesting how our tribe is interconnected as we all get, right? Is big as the internet has allowed us to grow as individuals. I just find it interesting that our tribe, the amount of people we actually deal with on a day-to-day basis that we can actually pick out of a crowd and recognize and know, you look at them and you see their name and you know something about them, right? Like you know a fact about them or many facts about them. That number still small, still very small town kind of deal. I think it's the only thing our brains can comprehend because we aren't ants, giant colonists. We always kind of existed within a small group of individuals, and we've since grown and gotten bigger, but I think our brains can only cap out at like maybe 200 people. So you look at the people you're following, think about when you're scrolling through, how many of those people do you really feel like you understand or know anything about, or also can't really like put this to the side. How many of these people do you really care about? There's a lot of people you probably follow that you just like, they did one cool picture and you followed them and then posting about their dinner every night and you're just like, and that's not to make you a person or anything. It's just our ability to have that many connections is limited. It's been proven over different kinds of studies and everything. So how this ties back, right? Now my brain is like collecting all those thoughts that I just said. All right, tie it back. So what matter at all? Why do any of these things matter? Why does the followers matter? Why does calling yourself a nobody matter, right? Because that's the key word. I just kept saying it over and over, right? That's all any of us want to do in this time that we have is matter, is be cared about. And whether you have so many followers that you can't even comprehend the number, or you feel like you have almost none and you kind of don't matter to anyone, that's kind of the whole point, right? Is we have like this capacity to really matter to a certain amount of people, and it's really hard to, on the other hand, feel like you matter to nobody, right? Like that's that really is hard to deal with. So I guess to sum it up, if you have thank you, Christy, for mentioning in the comments some of your thoughts. I really appreciate that. But if you also have any thoughts, then you can, we're about to end the stream now, but you can always comment in wherever there are the ability to comment. I will read all of them, and for the time until I get to like super like somebody status, I'll probably respond to everybody, and I'm hoping that I feel like can help make you feel like you matter, because I think it matters. Maybe not to every single person, but we all have our own sphere, right? We all have to work within our own sphere and try to make yours as nice as possible while we're at it. So I appreciate everybody who has checked this little talk of mine out. I'll just go ahead and step off this podium now. And if you have any suggestions as well for any kind of future talks, I'll be keeping an eye on, the art Twitters and all the other interesting things. I do have a couple guests coming to the show soon. I'm excited about. Sneak peek, may have a spoiler in this very cast. Words hard. But yeah, so I'm not sure how open. I'll ask everybody how much they are interested in being advertised. I would like anyone who joins the show absolutely like lift you up, like whatever you want to ask, go for it. Hit the screen. Yeah, so that is the whole point of the show, is to try to lift up people, make them stop feeling like a nobody, because I feel like you are somebody and your passions are worth exploring, as long as they don't hurt anybody. Gotta toss that in there. But yes, so I appreciate you watching. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you in the next Colourisma. Take care. Bye. I'm trying to end it. It won't end. I can't get it to turn off. Oh no. Oh no. Stop. Please doing. It's terrible. Clicking the button. Clicking the button. Stop. It's doing my number 4. Lovely live broadcasting. Okay. Pressing end. Okay, maybe it did stop. I don't